Hey yo, it's your boy Sam Duke,
It's your
It's your
man
boy Warren
Sam.
P.
It's your man Tel McHale.
and you're listening to another great episode of You
You
Good,
good,
bruh?
bro?
Bruh,
Well,
bruh.
hey man,
My bad,
welcome.
man. I seen the thing there, so I had to jump in just in case, man. While you
Nah,
was
man.
getting it together,
I,
that's on me.
I don't know
Hey.
what I thought it was y'all. I was like, what? Are we I even text Sam. I was like, we still in? Like
Yeah, man,
we,
we're getting
we
it
still,
worked out, dog. We're getting it
We're
worked
still
out.
growing, audience. We're still
Yeah, we're
growing.
still growing. We're still growing. We're figuring it out. Anyway, man, welcome back to another great episode, man. I hope you guys are doing good today. Had a good day. Enjoyed yourself. Had a good day of work or whatever. And now you get to wind down and listen to us. If you're on live, hello. And if you're listening to us on any of our streaming platforms, what's up? You know,
was
uh,
cracking.
today I think we need to address a topic that we address mental health a lot and we address emotions a lot. Today I think we're gonna address an emotion that I feel like we haven't really dived into a lot on the show, and it's it's an unhappy man.
Mm.
And before we go all the way in, I want to be clear what I mean by the unhappy man. I am not speaking about a depressed person, somebody going through real depression, um, someone that is has clinical issues, chemical off balance. I'm talking about what it looks like when a man is just not satisfied, not satisfied with where he's at in life, where he's at financially, just not satisfied in who he is, his surroundings, whatever the case may be. The implications and the dangers of an unhappy man.
And we're not, just to be clear, we're not talking about even the high functioning depression. We're just
No,
kind of like a
when I'm not
distinction.
talking about high functioning depression. I'm talking about somebody that's just not satisfied where they're at and with who they are. Maybe
Hmm.
there's some of course I'm sure that can slightly dive into some real mental health issues, but I I just think that there's a, a something that we need to distinguish, right?
Hmm.
That's different than mental health, but more, I think, emotionally plaguing some men, and it's just the dissatisfaction of where they're at in life.
Yeah, I mean, as from a clinical standpoint, that's still it's still a malady. Just because we may not have a diagnosis for it in the DSM, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that just total life dissatisfaction perspective. Like it cannot be something that doesn't cause some level of mental duress. You know what I mean? Like getting up in the morning and you just like, what the, you know what I mean? Like even though you're doing the things that you know are healthy and you still find yourself in that like space where, you know, maybe a relationship doesn't make sense. Maybe your career choice um, has played a part in where you see yourself. You know what I mean? Because some people fall into careers. It's not that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I would imagine that that's pretty common because we do have a capitalist society. Like everybody's not an entrepreneur. Somebody has to work for 'em, you know.
Yeah.
And I have always been privy to the idea that either you work on your dreams or you work for somebody else's. So it's like, if you wake up one day and you realize that you helping to make somebody else rich or make somebody else achieve goals that you haven't achieved for yourself, shit.
It can make
Yeah.
it can make you feel some type of way, and I think that
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was thinking. It was like, I was telling Warren before we even got on. I was like, have you ever met like a hater ass man? You know what I'm saying? Like just a
Quite a
man that's
few.
just like is just, in my opinion, just like hateful, and you could just tell that where they're at, they're like hardened. They're not,
Yeah.
what I'm
I,
saying? They're hardened. They're not. They don't feel for anybody in any other situation. They just. It's almost like it's almost like the unhappiness breeds a level of like contempt for
narcissism.
society.
It's a
Stink meaner.
narcissism. It's definitely leaning towards narcissism, where it's everything around him is at fault,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're bitter because these are the choices that they have or that they perceive they have. I'm dealing with somebody like that right now. That's why I laugh.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I brought it up. I'm having similar situations. I'm coming across these
yeah,
dudes, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like it's it's not a mental, like it's a clear from my standpoint, it's deliberate.
a
Like,
Yeah.
disdain.
yeah, it's a disdain. It's like they come across. It's funny because we were talking about this earlier. It's like, give you an example, the Brittany Griner situation,
Mhm.
right? I just seeing how certain men approached that situation. It's just like, yo, I get it. She may not be your cup of tea. She's a, she's a part of the LGBTQ community. You know, she was overseas. She's not the woman that you would want to protect. That's not when you think of
Yeah.
protect black women. Nobody's like Brittany Griner is at the top of the list. Not to say that she shouldn't be. What I'm saying is
Yeah, I'm
when you
saying to
start
myself.
when you think
She can protect you.
what I'm saying is she's like 7 foot, tall, and men wouldn't put her on that list. And I just started to see how they approach the situation. It's just like, yo, you should have empathy for her
Yeah.
going through that.
You would
When
think.
when ASAP Rocky was in Switzerland or whatever, got caught up there, everybody was free ASAP. All the dudes free ASAP. When you said Jello, right, was the one that was in
Yeah.
China.
Jello.
When Jello was Jello Ball was out there in China, a rich kid out here shoplifting and doing whatever it was he was
Still in
doing.
shades.
Yeah, everybody was like, hey man, you gotta get, we gotta get him back, as soon as possible, whatever the case may be. But then this high profile woman is in Russia playing ball in Russia because she can't make the money in the United States that she makes in Russia.
Mm.
And you see all of these, yo, don't compare her to LeBron. Don't put LeBron's name in this. Don't say this. Don't say it. It's like, yo, it's the truth. If it was a certain type of person, like Boosie said, if it was Taylor Swift, she'd be home. And you have to be able to understand that. And instead, it just seemed like there's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of, there's just a hardened sense of like whatever what she gets, she deserved from a sect of men. And I'm like, these got to be some unhappy ass motherfuckers.
They have to be. What is it? Play stupid game, get stupid prizes.
Yeah.
I,
But
I actually asked somebody, and I'm curious as to why they really seem to struggle to tap into their humanity, right? He was like, well, she's in Russia. The rules are different there. Okay. Do you think that the actual punishment matches the incident? She gets 9 years for a vape.
yeah, that's
9 years. That's
crazy.
all. That's a decade
Less than an ounce.
of all of our lives have passed before she'll see the light of day. Because in Russia, I think they serve their full term.
Yes.
Like
That's crazy.
10 years.
Yes.
I said, we're in your humanity. You think that's fair?
And you're
That's
okay
right.
with that? Yeah, you're fine.
He said yes. Eventually, it took at least 8 versions of me asking the question before he would be accountable, because he kept putting it off on the borders. Well, the over here is this. I said, stop. Your humanity.
Yeah.
Forget the rule. Just, is it okay to lock someone away for 10 years? And his answer was yes. Now, granted, he might have been saying yes just to be inflammatory, but I tend to agree with you. And my reflection of my interaction with that person has always been counter me. It's like, when I first met, he had an opposing view. We were talking politics, and
Yeah.
I did a radio show with him, and he was the conservative perspective, but he was, he's a black guy.
Yeah.
And every day it just seems has a negative energy about his perspective. It's always from a deficit model. Like there's no true strength conversation. So I see what you're saying, but that's not the person I was thinking about when you first brought it up.
Okay.
Because in my first thought, I was like, no, I don't really know anybody. But now that we're starting to break it down, I'm starting to see there are quite a few in my timeline or in spaces that are key to me that they exist in. And I'm thinking I need to put some distance between me and them. That's
Cause,
The
cause the thing is with that though, you can hold somebody accountable and still have empathy for them. And I think in a lot of cases, especially with the situation with BG, it's like, well, she did it, so she deserves the time. And I'm like, all right, nah, 9 years of your life for something to whereas, let's say if she knew, okay, what I'm doing is wrong. I don't think in her mind she felt if I get caught with this vape, I'm gonna do 9 years here. I might get hit with a fine. I may do 30 days. Like
mm,
I do not assume that she knew the risk of getting caught was 9 years of her life taken away.
mm.
I just wanted to go back to something y'all
Would
had
you? No,
mentioned
I want to ask
earlier.
you before you get there. If
Go-
would you travel to Russia and think like that?
My fuck no. I mean, one, I'm
nah.
not. I'm not to
Just-
go to Mexico. I don't even want to bring a little bit of weed with me.
That's
Just to
what
get it. Like
Man, I
I'm not
ain't.
which is
trying to.
thank
Yeah.
you. That's kind of where I was going. Like I don't mind. I would rather it be a decision of I'm in a position of I forgot or I you know
Yeah.
that sits
I'm
better
not
to me.
excusing her actions. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
If it was a
the
mistake, yeah. But if
yeah.
she
I'm not
thought like that,
excusing her actions. Just
that's like
9 years is
affluenza.
sheesh. I know if she. Well, I feel in my heart if she knew like, hey, if I get caught with this, I'm getting 9 years. I don't think that mistake would have occurred. But I did want to go back to something earlier. I do have an issue when people try to compare, like when I was seeing the memes, if it was LeBron or if it was this person. I feel that that's unfair because we know in society that different people have different contributions, different businesses. Like at the end of the day, the number one uh combining factor that most people align with is money and power. And the people they were comparing her to, I'm like, it's a totally different situation. I don't like doing the comparison thing when people are getting locked up in these type of situations.
Well, I'm gonna say this. See, I don't disagree with you, and I don't want to make this conversation about the
Yeah,
comparison.
of course.
But when it comes to women's sports and men's sports in this country, the only difference between LeBron James and Brittany Griner is marketing. That's the only difference. Now, I'm not gonna say when you're speaking from a talent perspective, when it comes to the gap of talent that people on Brittany Griner's level have, and the gap of talent that people on LeBron James level have. Brittany Griner sold out stadiums on a daily basis at Baylor. There people would come from across the world to see her play when she was at Baylor. The problem with it is the WNBA does not have that infrastructure, or they have not marketed it to the level that they have the NBA. And so to somebody, she's LeBron James. To a lot of people, she could be LeBron James. And I just think that, you know, it's unfair. I get the you don't want LeBron's name, you don't want to compare, but at the same time, she's over there as a superstar over there too. She's getting paid millions to be over there. And so I I don't want to want it to be lost on us that she is a star in this country and an international star. You get what I'm saying? And so, yes, LeBron is a billionaire, but at the same time, I think it's warranted to say she is of
She
a
got some clout.
caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
she's of a caliber
let's
where we
pivot.
should be looking at it
Yeah,
and saying,
we got to pivot though, because
but yeah, let's pivot. You're right.
we supposed to be talking about
Let's let's
dissatisfaction.
let's talk about the unhappy man. So, how dangerous is an unhappy man, right? What how dangerous is an unhappy man when it comes to one I was talking to my homegirl, and she was just talking about dating out here, and there's a lot of men that she comes across that don't necessarily seem to be very, very happy with where they are. And because of that, they try to diminish who she is
Mm.
and what
Mm.
she does. And she says she keeps coming across these type of men. And I was just like, that is actually quite dangerous. When you come across a man that, sees your accolades and what you have going on, or sees who you are as an individual, and he doesn't he doesn't lift you up, he doesn't raise you up, he actually is attempting to pull you down.
Mm.
It's a dangerous situation.
I mean,
I,
so when you say dangerous, you mean in terms of just mentally dangerous, or are you talking about like this man is the next? Uh,
I think
he's
it can
close
be
to violence.
I
Like
can
what?
think I think it could be emotionally dangerous,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with somebody that could potentially not ever want to see you in a better light than they're in. You know what I'm saying? Or in a better space than them. Somebody
Right.
who's, probably going to be emotionally draining,
yeah,
because they're always going to want you to, prop them up, so to speak, or make them feel better, because they don't feel happy with where they are, who they are, what they're doing, what they have going on. That's kind of what I'm thinking about from an emotional standpoint, dangerous from that standpoint.
Mm.
But I feel like that can bleed into, you know, abuse. That can bleed into, to isolation, not wanting you to be around people that see you as, you up here doing this and doing that. That can lead to a lot of things. And so that's why I was asking, like, how dangerous is an unhappy man?
I mean, if he starts isolating you, that's starting to sound more like abuse.
yeah,
Um, I definitely think people can be energy vampires, um, where they just pretty much take all the energy out of something that happened good. Like if she came home from work and was like, "Oh my God, I got a great job rating," he was like, "Well, shit, what else is new?" Damn,
Yeah.
yeah.
what I mean? It's like
It's like,
you
shit.
know,
I look at that as being more so like hater shit. When Sam had brought the topic up before we started the podcast
mhm.
about the unhappy man, uh, I thought about myself around, I say 2017, 2018. Um, I had left Papado Seafood Kitchen to, try to make the nonprofit thing work. Push my nonprofit to the next level, and expected to be bringing in funds, not only for the company but for myself, to be self-sustaining in that aspect. I remember leaving and thinking to myself, like, because I was making okay money there, like, bills paid, then had extra. So, but I was just like, I have to get out the serving industry. I feel like my time had passed there. Um, so things didn't kick off. Funds were starting to run low. So I went back to a serving job because it was what I knew. And while I was there, um, I ended up getting fired, not because I wasn't a great server, but because of my attitude behind the scene, like how I was in the kitchen and how I talked to other staff.
Mm.
Um, and while I'm going through it, and then of course coming home, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, but my girlfriend at the time, like I'm just angry, like mad, because it's like, damn, why am I here? Like I remember getting up and going to work just mad, like, damn, I shouldn't be here. I should be at this place in my life. I should have these funds in my bank account. Like I had gained a lot of weight during that time. Looking in the mirror, like, man, your boy out here looking sloppy. Like it's just mad at the world. And I remember when they fired me and told me, it's like, you just don't work well with others. Your attitude isn't on point. You're just not a good fit for us. And in my mind, I'm just like, how could they say that about me? And then I think of, when I'm sitting home and I'm just thinking about, like, yo, why am I acting like that? What brought me to this point? And you
Mm.
think about the decisions that you made, some where you didn't really think it all the way through. You just jumped out there, but at the same time, did you put the work in? And I'm mad at myself because I know I didn't work as hard as I should have. I know I didn't put all the time and the effort into certain things. I was never a person that, because my wife was propelling her business during that time, and I always
Right.
uplifted her. I wasn't a hater in that aspect, but just me on the inside, just uh, like Drake has a line like I was an angry dude when I was writing views, and whenever I hear that line, I always think about that time period, and I didn't even want to go out with people because I felt like I was a hindrance or my energy wasn't on point. Like I didn't want to be happy because I wasn't at a certain level in life.
Dog, you know what? As you started saying that, I realized I was an unhappy man at one point too. Like I had a real unhappy period in my life, dog. And it's crazy because it maybe it's because of the way we view ourselves as men. Like
Yeah.
it's financial as well. Like that was
Oh yeah.
I was in a bad financial space. Uh I was working for Bank of America
Mm.
and I got out of I started working at Bank of America when I was 18. I did 4 years there while I was in college, and when I was promised a job out of college
Mm,
into the corporate office in Atlanta. I was working on Latonia. They promised me a job out in Atlanta, and after I graduated, some of the higher up managers blocked my promotion to the corporate office. Dog, I became so unhappy. I think I became like mean, like I was mean to my girl. I hated the fact that she had got hooked up with this great job at the CDC, and I'm just, I had a promise to be moving up the corporate ladder,
yeah.
and I wasn't there, and I just became I ain't gonna lie, I would see other people doing good, and I had a little hater spirit in me. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't in the best mindset, and when you said that, it just reminded me of that time. I was like, yo, I had an unhappy spell as well.
And it
Well, I mean, let me ask you both of you questions. I mean, do you feel like that was an undeserved feeling? Like you don't feel like you? I mean, was it spot on? You know what I'm saying? Was it unjustified?
I
Do you
listen to
think it
both
was
of
unjustified?
It I think for me it was for me in at the time I felt justified, but now looking back at it, I'm like I didn't deserve to because Warren said he didn't treat his wife bad. I treated my girl kind of bad, like because I was like, I come home and she's like, I'm tired of you being so down all the time, and I wasn't
Mm.
depressed. I just wasn't happy,
yeah.
and I would snap at her. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, man, just because you got that old nice job, you doing this, that, yada yada yada. You enjoying yourself. You going to work doing the shit that you've been wanting to do, and I'm waking up doing the same shit I've been doing the past 5 years, you
Right.
know, um, and got to look these people who block my promotion in the face on a regular basis. People that don't want me to elevate and escalate because what happened was, and this is some bullshit that happens at a lot of jobs. Is when I graduated, we became short staffed. There were some people that left, and instead of doing good on their promise. They were looking at, okay, the banking center can't afford to lose him
Yeah.
at this time. And so they were just like, well, we're gonna have you shadow for 6 or 7 months before
Yeah.
we release you. And I wasn't happy with that. And I felt like I had done my time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm gonna tell you. So, since I have to look at it from the feeling wheel standpoint, like what I'm hearing you describe is a few things: hurt, meaning someone, for lack of a better phrase, violated, and it hurt you, and because hurt is associated is not associated with being strong, most men are not going to say, I was hurt. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah.
not something that is in our vernacular, especially when we're talking about making money or relationships or anything like that. So, number one,
Yeah.
I heard hurt. I also heard hateful um, in there a little bit from both of you, um, of which I'm assuming is just the perspective that you had about your self image. You hate who you have become.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is not anything that you ever visioned yourself doing at that point. And then there was also a tinge of jealousy, and the jealousy kind of, reeks. It's what I call a tier three emotion, and it ends up in your case, Sam. It ended up going into your relationship.
Yeah.
Warren didn't necessarily get that high. He was in, y'all both hit tier two in terms of emotional alerts, but at tier three is where we go into, when we talk about people impacting others. And jealousy is a common emotion. A lot of people have it misconstrued. Jealousy is basically an alert that goes off that a relationship is at threat, is at risk. Like something's threatening the relationship. You perceive a threat. And if you think about it, you can kind of figure out what it was. Was it you thought you were going to lose Brandy, or you thought?
I mean, the thing about it is a man, and the thing about it, it's early on in relationships. You don't realize there's ebbs and flows in both careers,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But it's like, you coming out of school, you see her career taking off, and then I'm back. I'm coming. I was the one with the career coming into college. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? Working full time, going to school full time. And
Mm,
now I'm looking at my career more like a job because I'm not moving in the trajectory that I felt as I should be.
right. You had
And
an identity that you wasn't matching up to.
exactly. And so that's kind of how I felt. I was just like, I felt that maybe she could take off and I could not. And then where does that leave our relationship, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Where does that, what type of, I can tell you, an unhappy man is usually a financially unsecure man. I'm gonna be real with you. A man that doesn't
Sometimes, yeah.
have his finances together. I'm not saying perfect,
Yeah.
pristine finances, but I'm talking about a man that cannot take care of his basic needs
Right.
and
He's
can't
two,
take
two
care of
weeks. Two
himself
weeks away.
financially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I
2 weeks
mean,
away. Yeah.
it gives you problems. And so that was my thing. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to be jumping into my career. This money isn't enough for me. I had just bought a house too, by the way. That was another
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
But it was just a lot. And so I was trying to take off, and it just for me, it was feeling like failure to launch.
Mm, that's a powerful choice of words.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what it felt like.
So,
It felt
Mikhail,
like
I
I
wanted
didn't.
to ask you this real quick. Sorry to cut
Yeah,
your
yeah.
knowledge off, Sam. And I know jealousy is on the tier, but is it okay to have a healthy jealousy? And I'll explain it to you from my end, because I say this about my wife, and I say this about your line brother Mikhail that works for TNT.
mm,
Like, those are the two people I'll say I have a healthy jealousy of, because those are two people I know that get up and go to work or their own business doing something they love every day, even if
right.
it's difficult, even if days are challenging. Like, they love what they do. And I'll say, to her and him, like, I'm jealous of you because, of your career. I'm working to get to that level now, with what I'm doing, but I don't look at them with any spite. Like, I'm actually proud, want them to go forward with what they're doing. But I say it's a healthy jealousy because it motivates me. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
seeing y'all, I know it can be
I
done.
mean, you see it, you believe it can be done, and
Yeah.
I think that that's important. Like, but one of the things that I can glean from my LB's perspective is that uh, we were talking about Sam. We were talking about Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu's popular or smart
Oh yeah,
argument.
popular smart. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what I will tell you is that he believes he has the ability. You know, he was a ball player in high school. You know, I mean, ball player in high school, ball player in college.
Mm-hmm.
If he stayed on that path, who knows? But he was able to make connections, and he ball is life for him.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
We take another step further. He was a journalist in college too.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. But his
Yeah,
major was journalism, and
yeah,
he stayed on task, and he embraced everything that journalism offered him.
yeah.
So you marry that to his passion for ball, for playing ball, and it was absolutely going to happen. Because I'm gonna tell you something. It's not so much that he can do a great interview or produce a great episode. He can literally put some sneakers on and go out there and
And who?
crush them jokers and actually hoop with the NBA players.
Yeah.
So he was able to build. He has a different relationship because of that. And I wish that for any and everybody, if you get an opportunity to find your passion early and get into it, that's an amazing blessing. And like you said, you sitting there watching it and you like, damn. But back to what I was saying about being smart or popular, really it's about, do you feel like you have the ability or not? Do you feel like you're lucky versus having ability? Like it really is about your own confidence. And the dissatisfaction that we're talking about is somebody that has not developed an internal confidence about the path that their life is going. Like
Oh
they don't
man.
see they're not seeing it
Mm-hmm.
blooming into this beautiful story.
Nah, that's real, bro. The confidence piece, bro. That's a big deal. That's a big deal
Yeah.
because it's like when I'm going back to my time of being a unhappy man, it was a confidence thing. And even when Warren was talking about himself, it's like, look at your boy out here looking, raggedy out here. Like that's a
Yeah.
Boy, looking
that's
sloppy out
yeah,
here,
that
man.
boy looking sloppy in the streets.
like what
It's
the
like
hell?
that's a confidence thing, bro. Like that's the thing. It's like that's a confidence piece.
Well,
And
so let me just say this, and I want to get y'all. I'm always about grace. Like
yeah,
we're talking about a transitional period in your lives for the most part. And whenever somebody's in a space where they have this level of disdain or dislike and it's not associated with mental illness, those are transitional places. People don't like change. And sometimes when you face with it, internally you get angry about it.
yeah,
Like when I transitioned from one industry that I had a passion for to another industry that just so happened to happen for me, I was not really happy about it.
Mm.
I thought I was going to live, breathe, eat, and retire from that industry,
yeah.
and I had to have a change of heart. And once I did, I got passionate about the work I was doing at that point.
But did you go through that unhappy phase though?
Hell yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I was
Now,
pissed.
I'm trying to get you to tell your unhappy.
Well, I mean,
I want to hear your piece.
mine it's not as so. I've always been interested in entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I was an introvert to a degree. So one of my best friends was uh, wanted us to do a talent show because we used to make rap tapes and stuff like that. But he wanted us to be singers, and I found I had a passion for singing. I mean, it was just like whoa, and or passion for performance in general. And then we started writing songs, and eventually that blossomed into a space where I got an opportunity in the music industry, and I felt like I took advantage of it, and you know, it didn't work out the way I wanted to, and that's where the fracture happened.
Mm.
Yeah,
And it was like for a year, I didn't I didn't work. I mean, I had some money put up. I was just living off of that, and I was trying to save a deal, but really, I was just angry as hell. I ended a relationship with somebody that really had my back, and I just let my frustration with all these other arms of the businesses blocking me bleed into that relationship and ruin that. And so if you're listening, My bad. And
No.
you know
Look,
who you are.
you
Uh,
know, you know, you
and that's what I'm saying. Like it's just absolutely I can relate to it. But the thing that I've kind of come to experience, coming out of that, out of the change, because I had the same similar experience when I changed out of the second industry, and I was just like, what the hell? And shit, I became the bros then. But the point is that I think everybody has the WTF moment when they go through changes like that. When it goes against your identity. When your
yeah,
identity is morphing and it's not something that you're choosing, that's rough. And you're supposed to have these alarms going off saying, hey, there's some changes that are happening right here. I need you to pay attention. And sometimes we pay attention and then we project. And I think that that's the toxic part. That's the emotionally dangerous part that you were talking about earlier. Is that the stuff we end up saying about our loved ones or the things that we feel about ourselves?
yeah.
So,
But no, go ahead, bro.
Mikhail, for somebody that's like, say, if one of our listeners is going through it or know somebody that's going through it, how do they detect it within themselves? So it doesn't, you know, spiral out of control.
Yeah, because I mean, it can spiral into depression. I mean, the only thing I can tell you that definitely what one can do is the same that they would do if they were depressed. I need you to work out. I need you to eat better. And on the other side of it, I also need you to get to a place to where you can choose who you want to be. Like I think there's a lot of um, it's more empowering to say I want to be an astronaut. Like right, okay,
Yeah,
say I want to be an astronaut. There are clear steps to achieve that goal.
Hmm.
You just have to choose. And the thing is, when you're an adult and you've been able to keep, you know, the snares and trappings of life out of your out of your life, you really have an open opportunity to do anything. You know what I mean? And if you
yeah,
had fallen in the traps, there's a way for you to fix that. Like nothing in this life is concrete. It's very plastic, including your personality. I used to
Hmm.
be an introvert. I had to become an extrovert to survive. So
yeah.
now I do both. And it's called ambivert now for those that are interested. But that's what I'm saying. Like
Got
anything you decide, like if you told yourself, Warren, you're not a morning person, guess what's gonna happen?
you won't be a
It
morning
won't.
person.
You're gonna be pissy every morning. Where my damn coffee? Where my but if you just went ahead and adopted the attitude, man, I love the morning because that meant God kept me, then you're gonna wake up with a different energy, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
that's what but I'm saying, like that's really what you have to do. If you find yourself anger, you have to start speaking the life into what you're wanting to become. You have to start
Yeah,
speaking out loud.
you
oh
got to
yeah,
wield
that's
yourself out of
powerful.
that.
Will yourself out
Yeah.
of it.
No,
It's
that's
a lot of power in affirmations for those of listeners out there. For me, getting out of that funk was one, understanding that I have breath in my lungs, so
amen.
Right.
I have the power to change.
Yeah,
Two, I really sat back and thought about, okay, I'm at this point. I hate where I'm at right now.
All right.
One, how did I get here? Reversing engineer, how did I get here? What steps can I take to go where I want to go? And being accepting of my situation. Because when I deny or mad, as opposed to, you know what, I'm responsible for being here. When I accepted my situation, it's just like, oh, okay, now I can move forward. Now I can take the proper steps to, you know, get out of this situation and progress in anything I want to do. Like even at this point right now, I was telling Sam earlier, I no longer with my old company and pursuing a new journey right now. The journey isn't going as quickly as I thought it would, but at the same time, I wake up each day and I say, you know what? Today is going to be a great day. I walk in the world of abundance. So I'm going to grab some of that. I
Amen.
live in a world of
Amen.
abundance, so why not me be a part of it? But I also know I have to put the work in, day out. Some days are good, some days are bad. But you know what? Nah, F that. Every day is good. Some days are better than others because each day I'm learning, each day I'm progressing, each day I'm getting closer and closer to that goal. And I understand now that, man, to be where you really want to be is sacrificing. And I saw it with my wife. Like, my wife is my biggest motivator.
Mm.
I can't share her full story because she'll get mad at me, but just she had a great offer on the table and declined it to bet on herself. And now she's doing very, very well with her company. I mean, with her own company, not working for somebody, with her own business.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
to
That's
see
good.
that, to live with that, it's like, nah, Negro, you got to keep pushing forward because you seen her ups and downs. You was there to comfort her and tell her, hey,
Mhm.
things are going to get better.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a place of privilege because I got to witness it firsthand in my own household. But for anybody listening, like, nah, if you believe in yourself, you sacrifice. That's the key word, sacrifice. You can get
Sacrifice.
yourself out of any situation. Like, you don't have to be the unhappy man or the unhappy woman. Like,
Dog,
you don't have to live in that place. You can
Mhm.
move.
look, let me tell you something, man. That is almost verbatim what my wife told me when I was in that unhappy place. I came home one day from that bullshit ass job and I was just unhappy. And she was like, Sam, fucking quit. She was like, quit. She's like, just goddamn quit that shit. Like, I'm tired of you coming home like this.
Oh my
Quit.
god.
I swear to God, God is my witness, bro. And I never quit a job before. Well, I've quit a job, but I've quit because I got a new job. But I've
Right.
Right.
never quit a job without
Without another
having
job.
something on
Yeah.
lined up before. And I did it. I quit. And to be honest with you, I attribute a lot of my success to that moment because it was in that instance that I realized, yo, I'm still living, I'm still breathing. I can do other things
Yeah.
that they don't have me. You get what I'm saying? Because
So,
that's the thing. Like,
wait, hold on. What happened in that moment? Do you feel like you broke the chains?
bro,
You understand what I'm asking?
that's exactly what it felt like, bro. Like, because
Wow.
that it was almost inconceivable to me that I could quit. Like I was, I was
I feel you.
because I'm like one of those people that I've been working since I was like 15.
Right.
Like, at 15, you got to go get a work permit. Your parents got to
Got
sign
to
off
sign
on
off.
it.
Yeah.
Like I was working at an early age, and I think I even had an internship before then. So, like, you know, I've been working for a long time. At that point, from 14 to 23, I had been working consistently, never without a job. And it was, to me, it was inconceivable that I could just be like, fuck this shit. Most because most
I
college
feel you.
students come out of school without a job, right?
Right.
But like that's almost a normal thing, and it just was not. I couldn't wrap my mind around it at the time, but I quit. I I had short term disability. Fucking, I'm gonna tell it. I had short term disability. I did have lower back pain from standing up all day in church shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I went to the doctor, got my short term disability shit straightened out. I took some time off, and then after that shit was up, I sent my sister. They called me to come back in. I was like, I'm not fucking coming back in this place. No 2 weeks notice. Fuck y'all. I sent my sister my keys. I said, take that shit up there to the bank. I'll give you $100. She took my keys up to the bank, and I never. I mean, I go back in there now and they look at, like, the manager that was my manager still works there. It's funny because one of the bros that I'm really cool with is
Mm-hmm.
her brother, but I quit on her ass. I was like, fuck you. And it's funny because
Hey
but
man, that's how you
but
feel.
in that instance, bro, like the weight was lifted off, the shackles were taken off, that unhappiness I felt went away, and I was given such a blessing of an opportunity right after that. I started working as a consultant for AT&T engineering, something I knew nothing about. But bruh, I traveled basically every corner of the United States. I was able to experience different parts of
Mm.
of the United States that I never thought I'd be at. I was in Portland, Seattle, Arizona, California, San
Oh, you was good
Francisco,
spots.
San Diego, Chicago, Detroit. I I basically experienced the whole every side of the United States through that gig, and I was free. You get what I'm saying? And so it's like it's those instances, right? Like you said, you got to take control of your life, and sometimes that may mean quitting a job. That may
Being
mean saying, you
uncomfortable.
know what, I'm gonna be a morning person, or you have to do something to take back your control so that you're not so unhappy.
I'm trying to remember. There's a comedian from Philadelphia, and he did an interview. He was, I guess, well, it wasn't an interview. It was actually from his actual like stand up,
Mhm.
and he was basically saying that everybody thinks that he's made it because he had moved to New York. He made it, he big time comedian now, and
Yeah.
his whole family and everybody. He's like, I'm actually worse off than I was when I was back home.
Sheesh.
And people don't realize it. Like when like Warren was saying, his wife bet on herself. That's what we're kind of talking about. It's like it's not that big of a deal for you to bet on yourself and find out if it's worth it. But it weighs heavier when you don't do because you never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it always ends up being a what if,
Every time.
and why didn't I, or some level of regret. I'm trying to remember what his name was. I think it's Anthony Moore. I think that's his name. But I just thought it was hilarious when he said it because he was like he'd take pictures, at different places, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you.
You doing your thing.
You're doing your thing, man."
Eh,
He was
eh,
like, "What the fuck am I doing? I paid $11 on a megabus." And so,
He out here trying to make it, but
but
he don't have that regret. He don't have that
he
feeling,
Yeah.
doesn't have
and
the regret.
he probably didn't have that unhappiness, dog.
Mm-mm. He was
And,
doing what he loved,
and
and
I have a real quick story to tell, Mikhail, because you talked about your time of when you were being unhappy, and it brought a story to my mind when I was online and we came to your house, and the bruhs, we do a lot of singing, so we were fucking up all the songs, and Mikhail didn't like that shit. So he started singing, and I'm like, this motherfucker can sing, right? And so I had known him for a while at that point, and I did not know he could sing. And it's funny because on his line, he was not the singer. He was not the singer, but he can sing like a motherfucker. I was like, yo, you can sing better than the singer that was on your line, bro. And he said, I don't sing. He's like, I still have scars from that. I was like, really? And
yeah,
so that resonated with me when you were telling your story. I was like, man, that was real deal. There had to be some real deal
Yeah.
unhappiness in there about that.
pain, hurt.
Yeah, there was pain. There was some pain in there because you were just like,
Mhm.
I don't sing, and you made that clear to me, like I don't sing. I was like, okay, well, we're
Bro,
gonna just,
I was trying to give you a compliment.
yeah. I was like, this nigga can sing a little bit, but yeah,
Oh
man.
my god.
I think that it's good to hear ways that we got out of our happy space, because I was really starting this episode talking about hater ass niggas,
Mm.
and then I think we kind of came full circle, kind of really seeing ourselves in some of that. Um, and I think that's a good point of reflection, good point of actually seeing us in those phases. And Mikhail made it very clear. A lot of times it's just a transition,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I think that's my biggest takeaway from this conversation is in those moments of transition, we got to make sure that we still are doing things to keep in control with our lives, and not just feeling bad because we're in a space that we didn't expect to see ourselves in. What about you guys? What y'all take?
For me, It's more so about we we knew what made us unhappy, but I guess in your case and in my case, during those times, didn't have a vision of what happiness looks like. So if you're at a place where I'm unhappy, I ain't got this, I ain't got that, or I'm not doing this, and that energy isn't that anger, that resentment, that energy needs to be directed towards figuring out what happiness looks like first. What provides you joy, what will make you joyful, and then setting out a plan to find that happiness, because some to find peace sometimes you have to have war, and by that I mean sometimes you have to fight to find peace. Sometimes you have to fight to find happiness. Sometimes it's a battle. Sometimes you have to do some things that are challenging in order to get to those places. And I feel like a lot of times with the unhappy men that I've known or that I've been, it was like I didn't want to do those things or take the time to do those things to get to that place of unhappiness.
Mm.
Like I was saying earlier, I look at it as me just being lazy or trying to take shortcuts as opposed to actually like, okay, Warren,
Oh, you gotta
this
check
is this is what I need to do to
your
be
choice
happy.
of words. Your choice of words.
Yeah, like this
Hey,
is
That's
what
so
I
look,
need to
harsh.
be happy.
you preaching, bro.
Yes. One, speaking life into my situation every day. Two, figure out what the fuck happiness looks like. Because everybody's version of happiness is different. So I can't call Mikhail or Sam and be like, hey man, how do I become happy? Because you know what he thinks is happiness is different from what I think is happiness. So you have to take the time to figure that out for yourself. And then once you know what that looks like, plan it out, work it. It may happen in a year, it may happen in 3 months, it may happen in 4 years. But once you find that place, no matter what occurs in your life, you know that you've put in the time and the effort to you can reach that place of happiness again. And that's it.
Right. I will say this, if you don't mind, real quick. I know we got
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
wrap. That there is a formula for happiness. Actually, that
Oh
most
damn, my
people.
bad.
No, no. I'm not countering what you're saying. I'm saying like and you kind of touched on it, but I wanted to be a little bit more plain. This past weekend, I did a conference about Black men and mental health, and we talked about stress. But one of the things I talked about that I don't want to. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. Is the neurotransmitters and that kind of help us function in this world. And there's two neurotransmitters. There's serotonin and dopamine. And the more you have serotonin, the happier your outlook will be. You'll be in a better mood. So what you do to get it is activities, doing things that you must do, that you want to do. Like if you go, hey man, I'm going to shoot ball today, you're gonna have a good time, more than likely. You know what I mean? It's just your energy gonna be up. And what you're getting hit with these neurotransmitters that's picking up your energy. So you're right that as long as you get to it, get to doing it, you will start to come out of that state of, being dissatisfied. But that's what it takes. You can't sit there and ruminate over what went wrong per se. Like it's good to have a pathology of it to know what happened so you don't have the same misstep. But at the end of the day, as long as you write it out and do it, you could check it off a list, you're gonna come out of it. And that's the 3 month to a year thing. That's just all it really takes. So, if people
Nah,
know that there's a problem, they should take that step.
that's real. That's real, man. And with that being said, man, I think that we really really hit this one out the park today, man. I'm happy we had this conversation.
I was
Me
gonna say,
too.
if you say
and,
so
you,
yourself.
and you know what would make me even more happy if Mikhail, since he's been on the radio, he's been doing conferences, he's been big upping you good bruh all over the place, would wrap this show for us. Could you do that for us
Oh
real
man, I
quick,
wasn't
Mikhail?
prepared, but hey, if you like what you hear, like what you see, please hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, go to Instagram, Facebook on the You Good Bro podcast and get at us. so we can get at you with some of this good content. We are all the streaming platforms. You good, bruh? Podcast, and we out. I'm Tel McKellen. I'm good.
Oh, it's on me. My bad.
Oh,
I'm Warren
goddamn.
P. and I'm good.
I'm Sam Dupe and I'm good.
And we out.
We go.
Bro.
Peace.